Hello, and welcome to my tutorial series on how to make an Assassin's Creed-like game in the Unreal Engine 4. Unfortunately for today's episode, we're going to have to go back and redo some things in our character that created, and the reason is, when we go to our Mixamo site here, we imported things like this running animation right here, and we hit this in place feature. And the reason why we did this is because if we didn't do that, when we implemented our animation into Unreal Engine 4, it would have just, every time the animation played, every time it came to the end, the character wouldn't move forward, or the animation would move the character forward. But then when the animation completed, it would just snap back to where the character was. So that's why we included this in-place animation that they have provided. But not everything in Mixamo has this in-place button like here, and we're going to be using some of these climbing animations in our game. So what we have to do is we have to provide or include what's called a root bone into our character in order to be able to do this. However, our Mixamo character doesn't have a root bone. If you look here at this mannequin that's provided by default in Unreal Engine, he has a root bone, but ours begins with these hips right here. And see, he's got a pelvis, and that I guess would be our hips, but it has this extra root bone to use in his animation. As you can see here, we go right down here to enable root motion, and we're going to be using this later on when we use all our climbing and such. So we have to add a root bone to our character, and there are several ways to do this. The way I'm going to do it today is what I think is the easiest way once you have it set up. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using the Blender software, which is normally used for 3D modeling, and we're going to use a plugin that someone created in order to add a root bone. To me, it's the quickest way to do it, but there are other ways to do it. It's actually good to learn them all because, you know, there isn't a plugin for every single character model you'll get on the internet or that you'll make. So with that being said, or also, just so you know, this the character model we created right here under characters, this isn't going to go to waste. We're actually going to recycle this character, and we're going to use it for our AI. So we didn't completely waste our time, and a lot of the things we did with it we would have done again anyway. We're just going to be creating a new character model for our player. So let's begin. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves a little organized. We're going to right click down here. We're going to make a new folder. We'll just call our folder player, and inside this folder we're going to create a folder called player mesh, and I know we created a previous one called player mesh. We're going to go back and change that, and then we're going to create another folder, and we're going to call this player blueprint, and a third folder, and we're going to call this player animations. And now we're going to go back to content, our characters folder, and we're just going to rename this character mesh, or just char mesh will work. After we're done that, we're going to go into our web browser, and we're going to go to GitHub. And I'm going to have a link directly to the converter, but I'll show you how to navigate there from the main page of the developer, whose name is Enziop. I hope I pronounced that right. So we're going to click on Mixamo Converter. We're going to go to Branches, and we're going to go down here to Blender 28 or Blender 2.8. And here are the instructions for using this converter right here. And I'm going to go to Code and download zip. After the converter is downloaded, What we want is the right version of Blender. It's very important that you have the right version of Blender to use with this, otherwise the converter won't work. So I'll have this link also in the description, but just to show you how to get there, if you just Google Blender and go to download, and right here, download, you'll see previous versions. And right here, you will also download every version of Blender. Blender saves all its downloads. It's very convenient for that. And then go all the way down to Blender 2.8. And I'll be using Blender 2.8 Windows 64 MSI. If you have 32, that's what you would be using. I'm going to click on that and download and install Blender. Once you have Blender downloaded, open it up and click over to the side to get rid of that intro screen. And you'll have this cube here, and just right click and delete it. We want nothing here right now. And on my desktop, I created two folders. One called UE4 Mix In and one called UE4 Mix Out for Mixamo In and Mixamo Out, because we're going to take our mesh and our animations and put it here, and then the Blender plugin is going to import it in here as a finished root bone product. So to put the converter onto Blender, hit Edit and go to Preferences. And up here, Add-ons, and then go to Install. And I have my converter for the purposes of this right on my desktop right here, Mixamo Converter Blender 2.8 zip. Simply click on that and install add-on from file. Now when that's done, you're going to want to scroll down and find it and make sure you have here Animation Mixamo Converter and make sure it's checked to show that it was added on to Blender. So that's all done. And then go over here to the right hand side and you're going to see this little arrow like that, and it should have a tab called Mixamo. And under Advanced Options, go down here and you'll see Batch Input and Output. So we're going to click over here. I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to go find my folder. Here it is, UE4 Mix In for my in. Hit Accept. Now we have a folder to put our animations into. And now I'm going to go do the same thing for the output folder. Hit Accept. And the next thing we want to do is right here, actually I'm going to expand this out so we can read the whole thing, is under hip name, we're just going to write the word hips. And basically we're going to turn this hips bone inside the Mixamo character into our root bone. And then where it says remove namespaces, we're going to uncheck that and we're going to click use Unreal Engine bone names. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back into our web browser and we're going to go back to Mixamo and we're going to go find our Arissa mesh, and it's easy to find her just by hitting search. You'll find her. So we're going to hit download, and we want it as a .fbx format in her T-pose. I'm going to download her. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back into Blender. And here's my download folder with my Arissa mesh right there. And we're going to go get my in folder and we're going to put her in there. And then we're going to hit batch convert. And now when it blinks like that, it's essentially done. And we're going to go to our out. So now here is our mesh having been converted with the bones of the UE4 mannequin. We're going to rename this so there's no confusion. We're going to call it Arissa, and we'll call it root bone. So once that is done, we're going to go back into Unreal Engine, go to our main content area, go to our player folder we created, go to the player mesh folder, and we're going to take our Arissa root bone mesh, and we're going to leave that, and we're going to leave this. Make sure convert scene is checked, and hit import all. Just clear out this. And now when I open up my character, now all the meshes are actually, or I'm sorry, all the material slots right here are now blank, but that's easy to fix because we have the old model. Just go up here to that material and then click on this Arissa Mat NCL1_1, and now she's got all her color back. So let's go into our skeleton, and as we can see now she has her root bone, and we'll go and compare her to, let's go to content, where's the mannequin? Here's the mannequin mesh. Let's open him up. And as we can see, if we were to look at his skeleton, he has the same bone structure. He has his root bone, his pelvis, his spine, root bone, pelvis, spine. So now she is set up in the same manner and ready for more complex animations. So let's start getting our animations in order. We'll simply click here on animations, and I'm just going to do a couple for the purposes of this tutorial. Let's see, I believe this was the running we had, and make sure once again you click in place. I'm going to hit download on that, and we're going to click without skin, download that, and then when that's done we're going to go get an idle animation, and let's see if we can find, I believe it was this idle we wanted. I'm going to download that without skin, and let's just get a walking one. Where was the walking we had? Was it this one? I believe so. Make sure to hit in place again. Download without skin. And just for good measure, I'll get a one that was one of the ones that we were doing all this for. So we'll go to climbing. And as you can see, let's find a good climbing one. How about, let's see. I don't know, we'll just pick this climbing down one. That's good for now. So as you can see, it doesn't have an in-place one. So that's why we got the root bone. And we'll download that one also. So once that's settled, you're going to take all the animations and you're going to put them into your in folder, like I have right here, and you're just get rid of this original mesh right here. It won't harm anything, but what will end up happening, it will create another mesh here with a root bone, and you'll have two in this folder, and it'll just save some confusion. So after that, go back to Blender, hit batch convert, and it might take a second because now it has more things to go through. Once the batch has been converted, we can see that all our animations are right here in our out folder. We're going to go back into Unreal Engine 4. I'm going to go into the player folder we just created, player animations. I'm going to go up here and we'll drag in all the animations we created. Click here. Make sure you are choosing the Arissa root bone skeleton that we created. Up here under Import Mesh, we're going to unclick that because we already have a mesh, and we're going to hit Import All. And then here are all our new animations with our root bone. And there's one small thing we have to repair because it keeps starting from the T-pose, but that's an easy repair. Simply hit pause, and down here you have this little red box. If you scroll it back and forth, it goes through each frame of the animation, and as we can see over here, it starts at the T-pose, but if we drag it along, we can start right where we want to. We can right click on it, and under remove frame 0 to frame 1, click that. Now when we hit play, our animation has removed that, and it's now running smooth. Hit save. Just close that for a sec, and we'll take a look at one of the animations that we were more concerned with when we started this. And we'll have to probably fix the T-pose with that also. So we'll just go over here. I think it should be right about there. Move frame 0 to frame 1. Save it. Now we'll play. And now our animation is starting up here and landing down there, and if we were to use this, it would just recycle our character back to this point. So what we're going to do later on when we get to these sort of animations, we're going to hit the enable root bone animation, and as you can see, the character doesn't transport itself in the animation from one point to the other. It simply will move with the character. This is probably not the best animation to use as an example. Probably should have picked a better one, but you'll see when we get into other videos and we get into our parkour and climbing how much better this is going to turn out. So next, we're going to go into our characters folder and go to our characters model. And right here is the old blueprint that we created for our character. And what we're going to do to make this move as quickly as we can, we're just going to right click on it, we're going to duplicate it, and we're going to rename this player model. And now when we open this, we have the same exact model here. The only difference is we're going to go over here to our mesh inherited, and we're going to go ahead and put in our Arissa root bone model. And there she is. Now we'll just hit compile and save, and we'll go back over here, and all the way to the right you'll see this little square looking thing with the arrow. Just click that, and we're going to put our new model into our new player blueprint folder. Move here. There it is. So we're going to open up our player model again, and if you go over here you'll see our general graph. We'll click on it. There's all our movement inputs. Here's our toggle, run, walk. Actually we'll add a comment to this so we have everything organized. We'll just write this as toggle, run, walk. Actually, we should probably put that there. Hit compile, hit save, and if we go back in over to our main editor, we can go over here to world settings. And right here under default pawn class, we have assigned our character model. We'll click on this. We'll hit player model. We'll hit save to that. And we'll hit play, and she's in the T-pose because we haven't added the new animations yet. But she can move around all the same. If I hit my toggle, she slows down. And if I hit it again, she'll speed up, so all that's already in there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add animations back in. I'm not going to explain this as slowly as I did the last time. For a better explanation, you can go back to the previous videos in which we did this. So I'm going to go to Player, Player Animations, go up here, go to Animation, and go to an animation blend space. Pick the Arissa skeleton, and we'll just call this Player Walk Blend Space. I'm going to open this up. Here I have my other blend space for reference. Up here on my horizontal axis, I'm just going to call this lateral speed. Make it from -600 to 600. Go down here to the vertical axis. This was our forward speed. -600 to 600. Right here's the middle. We're going to add our idle here, our walking here, and our running here. We'll get to the other ones in a second. Just want to go over what we did for you to follow just a little bit. And then I'm going to create an animation blueprint, and it's anim instance. Make sure to click Arissa root bone skeleton. I'm going to call this Player Animation Blueprint. We're going to open it up. Right here we had our output pose. We're going to grab our player walk blend space, connect them. We're going to promote this to a variable. We're going to promote this to a variable. And we're going to rename our variable lat speed. Going to rename this variable forward speed. And then we're going to go to our event graph. Well, we're going to compile, save, go to our event graph, and go to the event blueprint begin play. Then I believe, yes, cast a character. Then we took this, we promoted this to a variable. We'll call this player blueprint. Oh yeah, try to get pawn. Or try to get pawn owner. Make that an object, compile, save. Then from here we're going to go to is valid. We're going to set up our variables, set lateral speed, set forward speed. Then the thing that's going to be inputted is going to be our player BP. Oops. We're going to duplicate this, put this here, and we're going to go up to get velocity. I'm going to create another one called actor forward vector. We're going to create a third one, get actor right vector. And then we're going to get our dot products. We're going to duplicate that. Put this here. Put this here. Connect here. Move these up. Connect our velocity here. Our lateral movement there. Connect it there. Hit compile. Hit save. Make sure this is running. Go back to our anime graph. Make sure this is running. Where is our player blueprint? So then here under mesh inherited, we're going to use our animation blueprint. Here's our player animation blueprint we just created in this drop down menu. Hit pile, save, go up here and just make sure orient rotation of movement is clicked. Good. And hit save. So let's go back into our editor here, see how this all came together. Let's go ahead and our character's running. The animation's a little choppier than before. That's probably because of how we had to cut it. We hit our toggle button and she walks. It's great, that's what we wanted. And if we go back in and look a second to our blend space, we'll just hit our running and actually pause it. And if you look here, this is the ending pose for the running animation. You look, her left leg is kind of all the way back, but if we go all the way forward, it's a little more forward than it was before. So that's where the jump is taking place. Maybe when there's ways of fixing that. I could re-import the animation and try to cut it a little better. I might leave this for now. There's other ways of fixing it also. But all in all, we got what we wanted. Once again, sorry we had to go back and redo stuff, but this is going to be very important going forward when I'll just include the strafing animation while I'm talking. So it's going to be very important when we go into other aspects of this game tutorial that we had that set. If we didn't do this, we wouldn't have been able to put in the other animations. It would have looked really, really bad. So, but once again, we'll reuse this old character model for our AI and stuff, so it won't be a total loss. So, once again, thank you for watching. Like my video, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and support me on Patreon. All links are in the description below. See you next time.